This is getting way too easy.
Well, that seems to be the last of them. You've gotten so much stronger, Jinwoo.
Of course I have, old man. Does he really not realize he's in the presence of a prestige 3 light-skinned?
Wow, Jinwoo, that was really impressive.
I see it now. So this is the power of a 6'5" nonchalant dreadhead.
His light-skin aura is practically radiating from his body.
Wait, did I say that out loud?
You've got to be kidding me.
I really hope you didn't hear that.
Hey man, it's your boy Alex, and welcome back to another bang. Today, we are talking about solo leveling, and more specifically, the last 4 episodes of Season 1. And by the time you're watching this, the first episode of Season 2 should be out, which means we have another full season of greatness coming. Now, if you're excited for Season 2,
make it clap.
What? Bruh, get your mind out of the gutter. Make your hands clap. Duh. Anyways, if you have not seen these episodes yet, spoiler warnings ahead. And without further ado, it's time to get unhinged. So the story begins with our boy Jinwoo linking up with some of his old party members to take on a D-ranked dungeon, and are also accompanied by 3 prisoner substitute hunters who are out on good behavior. And finally, they are joined by our overseer of the Hunter Association, Tae-shik Kang, who's in charge of watching the prisoners throughout the raid. And now with their makeshift group of hunters assembled and Mr. Song taking the lead, it's time to enter the Diddy dungeon. So as they're making their way through the dungeon, they come upon 3 separate paths, and Tae-shik suggested they split into 3 groups because that's always a great idea. So as the 3 groups begin to walk down their separate paths, Tae-shik stops and gives Jinwoo a devious ass smirk, but regardless, they continue on. So now we fast forward a little bit deeper into the dungeon, where Tae-shik is now completely alone with the prisoners, and as he's talking to them, we get a flashback of Tae-shik meeting a man discreetly. And this is when we find out that the 3 prisoners that Tae-shik was escorting assaulted this man's daughter. And he offered 3 billion won to take their heads, which translates to about $2 million in US currency. It was a setup the entire time, just for this man to get a payday. And as we cut back to present day, he has already clapped 2 of the prisoners and is currently choking the 3rd one out. But he is interrupted by 2 of the other hunters, whose paths just so happen to connect. But this monster is unfazed. He pulls out his dagger, decapitates the prisoner, and starts walking down the other hunters. And when we cut back to Jinwoo's group, they hear screams in the distance. And when they arrive, Jung-ho and Mr. Kim have been sliced into pieces. But somehow Mr. Kim was barely alive. However, even with Joo-hee's attempt to heal him, he did not make it. And as they mourn their fallen hunter, they are suddenly attacked from behind. But Jinwoo stops the sneak attack as they now face off against Tae-shik. And first up is Mr. Song, who picks up a sword and steps up to his opponent. And after Joo-hee gives him a strength buff, it's time to get active. So Tae-shik dashes in as their blades clash together, and Mr. Song eventually overpowers him as he slices his sword through Tae-shik, but it was a mirage. And when Tae-shik reappears, he starts talking that mess as he begins to overwhelm Mr. Song and giving him a nasty slice on the shoulder. And when Joo-hee begins to heal him, Tae-shik decides that she has to go first. So he beelines straight towards her, but he is hawked down by Mr. Song, who temporarily stops him. But an old man with 1 arm can only do so much, as Tae-shik begins to overwhelm him with speed and precision. But it's all good because he has a healer. Bro, what? You used that ability 1 time. How are you already out of juice? You were more useless than Tintin, and she doesn't even have a last name. So now this lunatic is walking down this old man and is about to give him that new blankboy max cut, no enhancements. But in a last-ditch effort, Mr. Song attempts to light him on fire, which has the same effect as Shamik Moore trying to holler at the huzz.
You're a weirdo. I'm sorry, you're a weirdo.
It did not work in the slightest, and when it seems to be all over, Jinwoo steps in to save him, and Tae-shik steps back and he's like, bro, who are you? And with the deepest voice this man has ever used, he says, Jinwoo Song, E-rank hunter. Like, bro, do you need a cough drop? I swear, nigga can do anything to impress the huzz. But as he stands there, everyone else is confused, like, where did this power come from? And this is when Tae-shik remembers him from a previous encounter, right after the events from the dungeon in the first episode. And once he put 2 and 2 together, he realized that Jinwoo must have underwent a second awakening. And after Jinwoo questions him on his reasoning for killing the other hunters, this lunatic says he does it for the love of the game. He just loves offing people. And after saying this, he lunges at Jinwoo as they begin to go head to head. And as they trade blows, they both realize that their speed is fairly even. So Toshik temporarily blinds Jinwoo as he continues his speedy assault and eventually draws first blood. But little does Toshik know, he's going against a literal cheat code. The moment I saw Jinwoo hit that Goku warm-up jump, I knew he was not playing around, as he dashes at Toshik with blinding speed and slices him before he even knew what happened. But that's not all, because Jinwoo's dagger is not a normal dagger, because it can also inflict poison. And as it begins to infect Toshik's bloodstream, he quickly repels it from his body before he can do more damage. But Jinwoo dashes at him and begins to go on the offense. And just when you thought the tides have turned, Toshik activates his stealth skill and goes completely invisible, concealing his body, sound, and scent as he catches Jinwoo off guard and slices through his tendon. And just when Toshik thinks he has the upper hand, Jinwoo activates full recovery and heals his own wound. So Toshik goes back into stealth mode and attempts another sneak attack. But now Jinwoo can track his movements by sensing his murderous intent, as he puts this man in a domain expansion and stabs him through the chest, ending his life and taking his stealth skill. And now with the battle over, he tells Junhee and Mr. Sung to head towards the exit as he makes his way towards the dungeon boss. And after they completed the dungeon, they're greeted by another inspector who asks them who really took down Toshik. And realizing Jinwoo didn't want to give up the secret of his true power, Mr. Song says it was him, so Jinwoo didn't have to blow his cover. Now that's a real right there. And now we fast forward to 3 hours later, where Jinwoo and Junhee are finally getting a chance to catch up on things. So after they're done reminiscing, Junhee tells Jinwoo that she's retiring from being a hunter and that she's headed back home. And after they say their farewells, Jinwoo meets up with the chief inspector from the Hunter Association, A-rank hunter Jinchul, who warns him that S-rank hunter Dong-soo might be after Jinwoo's life, after Jinwoo killed his little brother Dong-suk and his crew, who are all in a group known as the Lizards, who are a group of hunters who abuse their power and commit crimes inside of the dungeons. And to be fair, Dong-suk and his crew had it coming, because they tried to take out Jinwoo and Jinho while they were all in a dungeon just to make some fast cash, but it did not work in their favor. But even with the target on his back, Jinwoo sees this as just another reason to get stronger. So now we fast forward a little bit later, where him and Jinho assemble a team of 8 hunters to take on a series of C-rank dungeons. But most of these hunters are either injured or down on their luck, and they recruited them just to meet the number requirement. Jinho is so rich, he paid them just to show up and sit around, while him and Jinwoo take on the dungeons by themselves. But before they start, Jinwoo tells them to keep it low-key, because he doesn't want to draw any attention from the Hunter Association. And even though they're all surprised by this, they all agree. I mean, you'd be stupid not to. And just like that, Jinwoo and Jinho begin their quest as they make their way through these C-rank dungeons, gaining loot, testing their abilities, leveling up, and getting stronger. And because of this, Jinho reached the target level for a new job change quest, which could potentially lead him to getting all new types of abilities. But little do they know, people are catching on to them. Mr. On and his subordinate Gichul of the White Tiger Guild have pieced together 3 different events that Jinho was involved in that he should not have survived. First, the double dungeon incident. Second, the annihilation of Dong-suk Wong's strike team. And lastly, Tae-Shik Kong's murder spree, which brings them to the conclusion that he reawakened. So they track down his whereabouts and convince him to sit down and have a little chat. So starting off, Mr. On attempts to recruit Jinwoo to the White Tiger Guild by offering double what Eugene Construction does, which is the company he has business arrangements with and is also owned by Jinho's father. And Mr. On really thought he ate with that, thought he had this in the bag, but Jinwoo activates his stealth ability and starts to threaten this man because Buddy was getting a little too nosy. But after Mr. On explains his reasoning for investigating Jinwoo, this man reappears and offers up a deal to keep his low profile, which is that they'll give them 3 of the C-rank dungeons they took for 200 million apiece. And after Mr. On reluctantly agrees, they both go on their separate ways. And now with all that behind them, Jinwoo heads out for his job change quest. So once he arrives to a secluded location, Jinwoo finally enters the job change quest dungeon. And unbeknownst to him, waiting deep inside is a mysterious figure in red armor. But back at the entrance, Jinwoo gets a couple of interesting notifications, stating that he can't use any potions or full recovery items while in the dungeon, and also that he's not able to escape until the quest is finished, which means he needs to be very careful during his time here, because one slip up could be the end. And right on cue, his first opponent walks stoically towards him, an armor type beast known as the Knight. And once they take their battle stances, the fight is on, as Jinwoo gets the first strike, but it does no damage. So he goes back in, and he has a speed advantage. But once again, the Knight's armor is too durable for his blade. So Jinwoo begins to dodge the Knight's attacks, as he remembers how he defeated the Blue Serpent Kasaka, another beast with impenetrable armor. So this man grabs the Knight's neck and shoulder and separates his head from its body. And right after he defeated that Knight, 4 more walk down the hallway. But that's not all. He's also attacked by an assassin and a mage. Oh, and go ahead and throw an archer in there too. And he's holding his own, but he's slowly losing losing his stamina. Now he eventually defeats them all and gets some new loot and armor in the process, which he promptly equips, but he's still unable to replenish his mana, so he has to move forward very cautiously, considering he has no idea what's up ahead. And as he moves deeper into the dungeon, he comes upon this ginormous door, and when he opens the door and enters the room, he comes upon his next opponent, the mysterious figure in the red armor, the Knight Commander, Igris, the Blood Red, a knight who defends the empty throne. And with the red threat level, this is going to be one of Jinwoo's toughest opponents yet. And in the blink of an eye, Igris rushes at him, and Jinwoo barely dodges his attack. And luckily he did, because this beast just cut that entire pillar in half. And he is not just strong, this man is fast as shit, damn near teleporting in Jinwoo's face and slinging him across the room. And just to show how fast he really is, they made us watch the fight from Jinwoo's point of view. Now I'm getting beat up too. I'm over here dodging my own screen trying to enjoy the fight. But even though he's exhausted, Jinwoo does not give in. He rushes at Igris and begins to swing away, but this beast is weaving everything until Jinwoo finally catches him in his side, but is once again doing no damage. And Igris follows up with a slash from above, which Jinwoo narrowly blocks as they begin to enter a power struggle until Igris overpowers him and yeets him across the room once again. And when he gets up, he realizes he's getting his ass whooped. So this man Jinwoo does the coldest thing I've ever seen in my life. He realizes that his dagger is doing no damage, so he puts it away and says it's time to throw hands. And I guess these two are in an aura battle, because Igris stabs his sword to the ground, throws away his daggers, and prepares to box too. And now it's time for Creed 4, as Igris rushes in and clotheslines Jinwoo into the ground, squeezing out every bit of air in this man's lungs. And in the same movement, grabbing this man like a teenage bully and chunking him out the wall, and then runs him down immediately, bombarding this mere teenager with seismic level punches. And somehow Jinwoo gets out of that, but not without taking noticeable damage. And if it wasn't for the armor he equipped earlier, he might have been looking like Deku out there, purple limbs flapping around and shit. So now Jinwoo's taking the time to reassess the situation, understanding that he cannot match Igris in brute strength, but he does have the speed as he activates his dash ability and attempts to attack Igris with a series of fast blows. But the Red Knight is still too fast as he counters Jinwoo's attempts at hitting him and continues giving him the beat down of his life. But Jinwoo is relentless as he rushes back in and continues hand-to-hand combat, and nothing is working, so he just starts trying shit as he turns himself into a human blender and cracks Igris in the neck. But Igris chased back and hit this man with a Caniac combo with a large lemonade and proceeds to ragdoll this man across every square foot of the room. I've never seen anybody fight so disrespectful in my life. This monster palms his head, grabs it across the wall, and yeets him into another wall on the opposite side of the room. And even though he's getting his brain scrambled, Jinwoo remembers that this is an aura battle and somehow goes from getting palmed and yeeted to landing on the empty throne. How do you do something so clean while getting beat up? Honestly, I'm not sure. But more importantly, Igris is walking him down as he raises his sword and slices down. But Jinwoo catches that big ass sword with one hand, flings it, summons his dagger, and stabs Igris in the eye, and proceeds to grab Igris and charge him into the nearest wall. And when Igris removes the dagger, it goes back to Jinwoo's inventory because it's not allowed to change owners. So this man summons it again and stabs Igris in the neck. And with that S tier sweaty level IQ play, he finally defeats the Knight Commander. And not just that, he got some crucial rewards too, which included a crap ton of gold, a mysterious rune stone known as the Ruler's Hand, a teleportation stone, and the Knight Commander's S tier helmet, which he promptly equips, when suddenly portals begin to open up all around him as he gets a notification that the job change quest begins now, as well as a timer that has no stopping point, as knights begin to exit the portals and swarm him, seemingly with no end. And Jinwoo realizes that this is a test of endurance to see how long he can last. But only 5 minutes in and fresh off his battle against Igris, he is completely exhausted and attempts to use his teleportation stone to get out of there. But suddenly, a knight pops out of the smoke with a ginormous hammer with an extended clip and whacks Jinwoo in the arm, causing his teleportation stone to slide into the crowd of knights as they all begin to charge in and surround him. With no more escape plans, Jinwoo's only option is to beat them or die trying. And even though he's trying his best, he only has so much left in the tank as the knights begin to pick him apart. And while he's on the ground, shadows of the people he cares about begin to pop up around him, telling him to give up, including the shadow of his old self, who tells him that even though his outward appearance has changed, he's still a weakling deep inside. And as the knights continue to close in on him, he gets another notification, a strength training quest. And once accepted, he gets transported to the penalty zone right before a knight can end his life. And once he comes to, he replenishes his stamina, but he's still too weak and damaged to heal with potions, so he can either wait and heal naturally or through leveling up. And with giant desert centipedes popping up around him, I'm sure you can guess what option he chose. So after he defeats all the mobs, he still has 10 minutes until he gets to return to his job job change quest, so he uses this time to sort out his gear, as he purchases a new blade called the Night Killer, which does more damage to armor types, as well as activating his ruler hand stone, which grants him the ability to manipulate objects without touching them. And now with the clock ticking down, it's time to go back into battle. And now fully healed with a new weapon and a new ability, he begins to take down his enemies with ease. But Jinwoo realizes that something is off, because no matter how many enemies he kills, he's not gaining any XP. And this is when he realized he was targeting the wrong opponent, because hiding in the back were the mages, who were using summoning magic to bring in more knights. And once he killed one, some of the knights began to break down. So he begins to use his new power to cut down the knights and take out the rest of the mages. But the remaining 3 mages turn the pile of knight corpses into a giant golem. But Jinwoo dodges its attack, scales its body, and drops a giant chandelier on its head, temporarily distracting it and giving Jinwoo just enough time to dash in and take out the last 3 mages. But even with their defeat, the golem still strikes at Jinwoo, who deflects its attack and uses his immense strength to send it back to the hill that it came from. And with the golem's defeat, Jinwoo finally completes the job change quest. And after his analysis was complete, he now has the ability to control a shadow army and has become a necromancer. And after he accepts, his new ability surges throughout his body as he suddenly begins to hear cries from all of his fallen enemies, which leads to a new skill known as shadow extraction. But in order to activate it, he needs a command word. And as his eyes begin to glow, Jinwoo says, "Arise," when suddenly shadow knights and mages begin to emerge from the remains of their fallen corpses, as these shadow soldiers now surround their new master. But Jinwoo doesn't stop there, as he turns and walks over to Igris's corpse. And with his other new ability, Shadow Storage, he can only store so many soldiers. So he releases 11 soldiers from his army. And when he attempts to recruit them the first time, it fails, which leaves him with 2 more tries. But the second time fails as well. But after he tells Igris he has a bigger purpose than serving a fallen king, he tries one last time, as he says, "Arise." As a giant shadow bursts from Igris's body, Jinwoo successfully extracts Igris from his fallen corpse, as he joins the shadow army and bends the knee to his new master. And as the rest of the members follow suit, Jinwoo stands tall as the new ruler of the shadows. Alright, so that's the end of season 1 of Solo Leveling. I don't think you guys are aware how excited I am for season 2. Week after week will be peak after peak. But if you're watching this video, I'm sure you're already aware of that. And look, I've been peeping y'all comments, so I've been sifting through what shows we're gonna do next. But still let me know down in the comments what y'all wanna see. And once again, I appreciate everybody for watching. You all are the best. And if you're rocking with my videos and wanna see more, don't be afraid to like and subscribe. It's your boy Atlas, and I'll catch you next time.